inertia caused by the previous Arroyo administration's unilateral and prolonged suspension of the talks and grievous violations of the bilateral agreements entered into by the two parties. But it has been a roller coaster ride all the way, so to speak. And until a few moments ago, no one could be quite sure whether the talks would end up on a high or a low point, or whether it might stall once more. Such is the nature of negotiations. The joint communique, which we will sign in a few moments, is eloquent proof of what the two panels have achieved. We have reconvened the Joint Monitoring Committee, which is tasked to oversee the implementation of the Comprehensive Agreement on Respect for Human Rights and International Humanitarian Law, CARIR. The Reciprocal Working Committee on Socio-Economic Reforms have resumed their work. We have agreed on the formation of working groups on political and constitutional reforms, PCR, in order to pave the way for the eventual negotiations on PCR by the Reciprocal Working Committees, RWCs. We have also agreed on appropriate measures to be undertaken by the GPH to address the issues on compliance with JASIG, the Joint Agreement on Safety and Immunity Guarantees, and the release of political prisoners. A general timetable synchronizing all the above-mentioned processes for completion of agreements leading to a comprehensive political settlement has been set. We have drawn on common aspirations and principles in order to overcome inherent contradictions and contrasting perspectives. Each party has bent over backwards from previous hard positions in order to find common ground. One of the major stumbling blocks that has been removed is the previous attempt by the GRP, the Government of the Republic of the Philippines, under the Arroyo administration, to use the quote-unquote terrorist listing of the Communist Party of the Philippines, New People's Army, and the NDFP Chief Political Consultant, Professor Jose Maria Sison, as leverage in alternately enticing and trying to coerce the NDFP into signing a document of capitulation. We welcome the declaration of the GPH that the CPP, NPA, and NDFP are not terrorist organizations, and therefore peace negotiations with us are possible and appropriate. However, much more has to be done in ensuring that all GPH departments and agencies, especially the military and police forces, understand, respect, and abide by this position. We note that the Philippine National Police suspension of operations order in relation to the ongoing unilateral reciprocal ceasefire declarations by both parties still refer to the CPP, NPA, NDF forces as quote-unquote CTs, meaning communist terrorists, or simply quote-unquote terrorists. Similarly, the GPH backtracked from its previous attempt to impose an indefinite or prolonged ceasefire as a precondition to the resumption of formal talks. The unilateral ceasefires both parties entered into to mark the resumption of the formal peace talks after more than 6 years clearly served as reciprocal confidence-building measures. However, we have received reports from our field units in various areas all over the country that GPH security forces have conducted offensive operations in violation of the current ceasefire under the guise of civil military operations, CMOs, defensive and police operations. We would like to stress that while our principals and NPA forces have specifically demanded that the AFP ceasefire include CMOs, civilian military operations, and other operations that are used as a cover for offensive operations. The AFP SOMO, or Suspension of Offensive Military Operations, declared the opposite, excluded these very operations, and provided wide latitude for such ceasefire violations. We have no illusion that the road ahead will be a smooth and easy one. Both parties declare that the just and lasting peace, which is the common aspiration and avowed end goal of the negotiations, can only be the result of fundamental and structural socio-economic and political reforms that will benefit the people. However, powerful vested interests, domestic and foreign, stand in the way and continue to weigh on the peace negotiations. As the global and domestic economic and political crisis intensify, our task of negotiating bilateral agreements that address the roots of the armed conflict becomes more urgent and compelling. We must muster all our political will, continue to find common ground, build principled unity, and creatively craft mutually acceptable terms to forge these agreements. We carry with us the aspirations of the peasantry, the workers, the women, the youth, the indigenous peoples, the fisher folk, and all the other sections of our people longing for a just and lasting peace. Their strength and their struggle gives us strength and inspiration. We once more thank the Royal Norwegian Government for ably and patiently hosting and facilitating the peace negotiations, and for this round of formal talks in particular. The success of this round of talks would not have been possible without them. We put this fruitful and constructive round of formal talks to a close with a note of confidence, guarded optimism, and hope, as well as a realistic appraisal of the difficult road that lies ahead. The Filipino people demand and will continue to struggle by all means possible for nothing less than a just and lasting peace. Mabuhay ang sambayanang Pilipino. Long live. Mabuhay.
Thank you very much. Then we will have the signing of the joint statement.
One copy first.
Kompleto na yan, then you can go to regional. Sa akin. Pwedeng magpirma ng pangalan.